Hi, this is Joanne Koike, your midlife coach and the founder of Midlife Rewritten. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Liz Kleba. She is a wardrobe and image consultant and a personal style and color coach. She's from the Augusta area, and I'm just really excited. I met her at a conference in Atlanta, and she is the most vibrant person I've met in a long time. And so this was a conference of midlife women, and most of us do what I do. They color their hair, but Liz is one of the gray-haired goddesses that were there who let their true color shine through. And I loved it. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So
it's lovely to be here.
Typically, I start out by asking about, what kinds of things did you discover in midlife that you didn't expect? What were surprises for you when you came into that midlife space?
I think for me, one of the biggest surprises was watching, because I remember my mother going through this transition of midlife. And I remember her, I don't want to say folding up and disappearing, because she went out and she did different and interesting things because she was at a different and interesting part of her life. But I think physically, she was sort of embracing kind of a physical decline. And I've found, even in spite of some physical issues that I've had, that I'm trying, and maybe this is just a reaction to watching her and previous generations, that I am not interested in that physical decline portion. I'm interested in pushing my boundaries and testing myself and trying to go further and make these last years not just sitting in the chair, but much more energetic.
Right.
Because I have more time. I do have more energy. I don't have little people around the house anymore. So now I can give myself that time back as a gift.
Right. Yeah, that is, that's an important thing that I think, you have choices to make at that midlife space, and it's easy to kind of get comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable. And as our metabolism changes and our energy level changes, we don't get out as much. And then we enjoy our food a little too much sometimes. And yeah, that can really have an impact on how you see yourself in that midlife space.
Yeah, that metabolic shift is brutal. I mean, it can be. So I was very fortunate. I was blessed with a very robust and healthy and speedy metabolism. I never had to worry about it. But then all of a sudden, on came the brakes in a really alarming and I'm not even sure. I don't want to go dropping rude words on here. So in a very alarming, concerning manner. How about that?
Yeah.
So, but, a weekend of overindulgence used to take, a week of decent eating to sort back out. But now all of a sudden, a weekend of overindulgence takes 2 or 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
To sort back out. It's like, oh my gosh, this is just, it's not fair.
Yeah, I know, when there's so many good things to eat and your body just says, I'm sorry, but that's too much for me. Yeah. And I think, it's probably for those of us who have, have needed to be concerned about all of those kinds of things earlier on. When midlife comes, we're kind of like, oh yeah, okay. But for someone like yourself, where it hasn't been an issue and you had the luxury of enjoying your food and not thinking twice about it, it can be quite a little shock.
Yeah, I mean, I was always very aware of what I ate. I wanted to eat well, and I didn't want to eat too much or be uncomfortable. But yeah, finding that metabolic shift was an unpleasant surprise. Other than that, unpleasant is not necessarily what I would call midlife or the change or anything else.
So when you think about that, what other kinds of myths do you think about that comes with midlife that you would like to debunk and have women toss?
Gosh. One, that there's something wrong with going gray.
Okay.
I'm really passionate about embracing who you really are at this point in life and running with that. I would say the fact that life is over at midlife, it's just starting. I mean, there's just so many more I am finding so many opportunities to just branch out and do different things. I don't know, I've kind of reinvented myself now twice in about 10 years in midlife. And part of that was due to circumstances beyond my control. And part of that was due to, it was just time to try something new. So I think you lose a lot of your fear about trying new things, because all of a sudden it's like, what do I have to lose? Which I think is a fabulous, fabulous way to go about life. So that's been a real joy for me, in the sense of, okay, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just try it. Yeah, I think I was a lot more fearful. And maybe that's part and parcel of, being a mom, and you're concerned about your kids, and everything we do can have an effect on them. You don't want to do anything that's going to damage them. And once they're kind of up and out of the house, it's like, okay, oh, guess what? I get a new life again. And that's lovely. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's very true. So tell me a little bit more about these reincarnations or reinventions that you've made in the last 10 years.
So I guess my story is a little convoluted. When I was younger, I was in the Naval Reserves. When I was in high school and college, I worked retail, loved working retail and helping people create outfits and style, and that was fabulous. And then after college, I ran off and joined the Navy. Over time, met my husband, and I then went into the reserves because he was deploying and on active duty, and somebody needed to take care of children. So I did that. His career was taking off, so I did that. And that was great. We were traveling around the world. Every 3 years we moved. So I took care of our kids. I homeschooled them. He deployed a lot, which makes having a career very challenging, particularly when this is kind of a pre-internet time, early internet, pre-internet. There's not a lot of internet businesses. I wasn't a hairdresser. So, which is a very many spouses were hairdressers, because it was one of those things you could take with you wherever you went. So I homeschooled our sons. I did a lot of bookkeeping, tax preparation, things like that. And when we had our last move was here to Augusta, and we decided, okay, we're going to put our last two children who were still in school, we're going to put them into school. Now, what do I do? So I worked as a bookkeeper for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, this is good. And then I had the opportunity to teach Spanish at a local school. They asked if I would be willing to teach Spanish, and that was fine. I'm relatively fluent in Spanish. And I thought, well, this will be exciting. But I had to go back. Not only was I starting a new career, but they said, oh, and by the way, you'll need to get your certification, which means going back to school and getting your master's degree. So within a 2-week period, I started a new full-time job and my master's degree, all with less than a month of. And that was a little insane, but it was a wonderful thing. I loved what I was doing. I loved teaching. It was never the same day twice. And I was fortunate that I got to teach kindergarten through 8th grade. All in one. So, one class is kindergarten, one class is 8th grade, the next class is 4th. So there's never a dull moment. It was never a dull moment. It was fabulous. Now, other people, that would be really stressful, but I enjoyed that.
You love that.
I really loved it. And that was terrific. It turned out that, and I worked for them for 6 years. I loved every minute of it. I did not want to leave, but I was getting those nudges from my higher power, from God, whatever you want to call it. I call it God. It was telling me to walk away from this job that I loved. And I thought, what, you handed me this job on a platter. You got me through grad school. Well, no, it's all going really well. And I was trying to argue with the deity, which, probably shouldn't do. Fortunately, my husband is very supportive. He's like, if that's what God's telling you to do, you need to do that, because otherwise we're going to get the 2x4 of the Holy Spirit explaining why. Yeah,
that's right. You don't want that slap up upside the head.
Yeah, exactly. So I told them that I wouldn't be coming back the next year, and I burst into tears because I couldn't explain why, except this was what he was doing. And it turned out that the very second to last week of school, as I'm preparing my junior high students for their finals, my mother, who had moved in with us a few years prior, had a heart attack. Very serious. She was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. She had some complications. And it turned out that was the reason I was probably supposed to leave my job, because I needed more flexibility than I could have being being in the classroom 40 hours a week, and then the other 20 plus hours a week that you're doing work on the side. And that following year, we had what was called her social life, which was, pretty much doctor's appointments every week. She's like, where are we going this week for my social life? I'm like, okay, we're going to see the cardiologist, we're going to go see the gastroenterologist. And so I needed a lot more flexibility. So I tutored, I taught some homeschool students. It was great. And then I had a health crisis of my own about 2 years after that. And my husband was like, okay, so what are we doing now? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing now. And he's like, well, I think you need to do something with all these texts and things that you get from your friends who are asking for advice about what they should buy or what they should pack, or does this look good on me, and these dressing room selfies. And I'm like, okay, I got to think about this. So, and I understood how to do what I do for my friends and my family, but I was like, how do I do this for people I don't know? How do I kind of learn to dig into their brains and talk to them and find out we're their style germ, the one that grows out and becomes who we are. How do I uncover that and help them explore that when I'm just meeting them? I did some training with a fabulous image consultant who trains other image consultants. I did color training with her as well, and hung up my shingle that spring, and have just kind of grown slowly and steadily since there. So that's two major changes in life in the 10-year. And I don't know, I feel like it's just getting better all the time, and I'm thriving in that. I know some people are afraid of change, but I think we're always changing. If we're not changing, we're decomposing. So why not just improve with it?
Yeah, that's so true. Well, you're so fortunate to have a husband who was so perceptive.
I am truly blessed. He is one of the greatest graces I've been given. God bless me. A fabulous man, and he's always got my best interest at heart, and I am truly fortunate to have found him and been able to marry him and spend my life with him.
So it sounds like from the stories from the information that I read on your website and your about page, it sounds like fashion and the importance of a good image was something that you learned pretty early on.
I did. My mom always loved style and fashion. She was a big city girl from New York, and I grew up out in the Midwest. So, we would go shopping like twice a year. We would go down to Chicago to shop like the big city. So I remember that. And there was, I'm trying to think. And I really, like I said, I worked retail in high school and college, and I loved that. That was wonderful. I didn't like the management portion of having to make numbers when you're not in charge of the buying, and the things that they're buying don't suit people. It was like, I can't sell this stuff to people because they're not going to come back to us.
Right. It's not
when I tell them it looks good, and then somebody else tells them they look horrible in it. That's not going to be good for our business in the long run.
Exactly.
But numbers are numbers, and management numbers. But it really wasn't until after college I was working in a real estate office, multi-purpose real estate area. I was living in Minneapolis at the time, and it was really funny. It was a beautiful multi-purpose. They had apartments, they had a shopping center, there was all kinds of office space and the whole thing. And we had an office manager. I'll call her Lena for her. I'm not going to tell you what her name was, but anyway, Lena was fabulous. She knew everything about everything that was going on. She knew how many units of the apartments had been rented. She knew how many of the condominiums had been sold. She knew the sizes of the available spaces within the retail area. She knew all the contractors' names. She had most of them in her mind. And this is pre-cell phone, no contact list to call them. She could just pick up.
This is all up here.
It was all up here. She was amazing. She had a mind like a steel trap. Detail, and she knew the opening dates of stores. She knew what contractor was coming in next. She had files and stuff on this, but it was all here. She was just amazing. And it was interesting because she had all this knowledge and this wealth of information, but she really wasn't making it past office manager.
Mm.
Because her style was really holding her back. She was very petite, she was small, and not only was she petite and small and female in a time when that people would look at you and go, oh, aren't you a cute little girl?
Yeah.
But she was dressed very much like a little girl. She kind of looked like a 12-year-old with, a 30-year-old face.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she didn't come across as this amazingly competent professional to people who just met her. Once they knew her, you don't mess with Lena because she had it all under control. But there was a roadblock there. There was this roadblock, and it took people a long time to get to trust her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had an amazing boss that saw this potential in her and decided to treat her. She disappeared one Friday afternoon early.
Yeah.
We're all like,
where'd she go?
Until the very end of the day, unless we're all going somewhere for a cocktail. So what's going on? But she disappeared. And, our boss had made the investment in her that he wanted her to, got her a gift certificate to go to Dayton's, who had a personal stylist. Dayton's is a department store in Minneapolis. And she had a personal style consultation with one of their people. She had a hair appointment. She came back in on Monday morning, and she came walking in, and a bunch of people, she went to walk back to her office in the back, and people were like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't go. I'm sorry, that's
wow.
They did not recognize her.
They didn't recognize her.
They did not recognize her. And I did, because I'm very aware of people's movements. But I saw her walk past my desk, and I hadn't looked up to see who it was, but I saw her walking by, and I was like, hi. I knew who it was by how she moved.
Right.
And then I looked up, and I went, what? And it was literally a transformation. And after that, she took the world by storm. There was no stop.
Wow.
And I was so thankful that this man, this boss, he saw this value in her, and he made an investment in her that I can't even imagine how many times over it paid itself back.
Yes, I'm sure. Wow.
And so I'd always understood that image was important, but that really kind of concretized it for me in a way that was so intense. And I'll never forget the look on people's faces when they realized who it was.
Yeah.
And she even carried herself differently after that. And so that was really a powerful, powerful experience.
Yeah. Well, that really, as I read it, I thought, what a great learning experience that was for you, and just set you on a path. And even though it kind of took you a circuitous route to get to where you are today, it really kind of built that awareness for you all along your life.
It did. And it's funny because, we lived, like I said, we were in the military, and we would live in the United States and then overseas, in the US and overseas, back and forth. And I became very aware at an early age about how clothing is a language, and every culture has a different language. Every culture dresses differently, although less so now with the internet. There's a lot more fluidity,
right?
And homogeneity. I always get stuck on that word. Across the bar. But I remember being very aware of how, okay, this is how people here are dressing, and then just sort of, I don't want to say chameleonizing myself, but I don't necessarily want to stand out as the American in the room or the American in the room.
Right.
Because I live there, and I want to look like I live there and belong there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was always very aware of that when we moved. So that was interesting as well.
So that must have taught you how to choose things from, I'm guessing you chose things from that culture that you could incorporate into your own wardrobe, and it must have really had an impact on your sense of style over time.
It did. And it's funny because a lot of it was not necessarily, it wasn't an overt thing that I was trying to do. It was more just under the radar. I didn't realize as much as I was doing it until now that I look back and reflect on those experiences. I see how those helped me get to where I am today. It was really funny. We were living in Spain in the just after, right before the change of the millennia. I was taking my shoes to the shoe repair, and I dropped off my shoes at the shoe repair, and I'm talking to the cobbler, and I speak Spanish, so we're talking, and he said, so where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm American. And he looks at me and goes, no, you're not American. You must be English, right? And I'm like, no, I'm American. I'm here. And he goes, no, you're not an American. You must be. Your mother is from what? I'm like, no, I really am an American. You don't look like an American. I said, what does an American look like? And he said, cara de ópera y zapatos de jogging, which means an opera face and running shoes.
Oh.
Because him, Americans all wore tennis shoes and full heavy face makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we would say now today, an Instagram face and running shoes.
Right.
Because that was his image of Americans, because that's what he saw so much of.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at him. He's like, you have a clean face and real shoes, meaning, you know, leather shoes,
right.
you know, with and a relatively clean, natural makeup kind of a face.
Uh-huh.
So funny. I was like, oh my gosh, is that what we look like? You know, meaning we as Americans as a culture, is that what we look like to him? Yes. Mm-hmm. And that gave me like a new set of eyes to look. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm looking around town going, yeah, he's right. On that. And I had never really noticed that myself.
Huh. Interesting. Well, living abroad certainly opens one's eyes to things. I've always felt very strongly that, you know, to be able to give my children the opportunity to travel abroad and experience different cultures is just such an eye-opening thing for us. And
I'm very thankful for the opportunities and perspectives.
Yeah.
That my husband and our kids, because we never lived on base. We always lived out in town.
Oh yeah, that must have been really nice to be able to live in, away from that American influence. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's interesting what you say about shoes, because as you said, you were taking your shoes to the shoe repair. I thought, well, people don't do that anymore. You really have to work hard to find a good shoe repair place.
A good cobbler is like pulling hen's teeth. Yeah. It is really a challenge. We actually have one here in town, and he's amazing. But I mean, except for the quickie shoe repair places you find at the mall that can put on shoe taps and polish your shoes, really fewer and fewer honest to goodness cobblers around anymore. It's getting challenging to find them. Yeah, it's really a shame, because it speaks to the quality of shoes these days, and the poor quality of shoes, I guess I should say, and the concept that things are disposable, right? That disposable mindset. Yeah. That my heels look a little run down. Well, I'm just going to throw those away, and I'll just go buy something else. Yeah. I know. It's just not good all around. Yeah. So when you think about the kind of suggestions that you might have for women in midlife as they're trying to navigate and coming up with those feelings of fear about stepping out of the box, yet knowing that this is the time for them. And if they don't somehow figure out how to step outside that box, then that time is going to pass. So what kind of suggestions come to mind? That's a great one. Somebody had a meeting I was just at this morning with my business networking group. They had an acronym for fear, and I'm trying to come up with it. Appearing reality. Oh yeah, false something's appearing real. Reality. And when you said fear, I went, oh yeah, that's it right there. Mm-hmm. It may come to me here in a minute, or it may pop back up in your mind. I don't know. I was just talking to a friend about it. We're doing a workshop on the 9th of this month. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, good for you for doing that. Something I was talking to her. I said, well, yes, because it scared me. So I knew it was time. The thing to do. Yeah. If it scares me, I have to do it. And for me, that's kind of become, I guess in some ways, my motto. If I'm afraid, that means not only do I need to do it, because a lot of times you say, oh, well, I'm afraid of that, I need to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's become, no, now I have to do it. Mm-hmm. What would I say? Where did that, have you always had that sense of things, or did it kind of evolve over time about that needing to do something that really scared you because you knew it was something you needed to do? No, it wasn't. That's definitely, I've always been kind of out there. And I've always enjoyed new experiences. And so like when we would move every 3 years, I loved that. I loved finding a new place and immersing ourselves in a new culture. So I was always very open to that newness. Mm-hmm. But even in all those changes, that change becomes your regular thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we settled down here, that was scary. We've been in the same place now for 11, going on 12 years now. And
Wow.
so that was scary. And I found myself kind of holding back on investing myself in the place that we live, because we always got picked up and moved every 3 years. So I didn't have to dig deep and dig in and get my roots in strong. So that was something that I realized I was afraid of. And so somewhere along the line, I realized, okay, it doesn't matter that I'm afraid. And I think it was probably when I started the job teaching. It was like, okay, no, that was sort of where it became, oh, if I'm afraid, not only do I need to do it, I'm going to do it.
Wow. Yeah.
And and I'm not sure where that came from. I don't know if that's, an avoidance of growing old. If I just, but I'm insanely curious and I love to learn.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is that I just want to keep doing new things that scare me, because I know that stretches my boundaries and it makes me a better person, and it makes me more who I'm supposed to be, because I know he's not done with me yet. So if it scares me, I need to try it so that he can teach me something new.
Right. So you can find what it is in there that you're supposed to incorporate in yourself. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. That's exciting. I think that sense of being open to adventure, being open to things changing, that is such a crucial element of staying young.
Yes.
And I think what happens is,
and being interested in things. Somebody years ago, and I wish I could remember who the quote is, he said, interested people are interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yes, I'm interested in everything. I meet somebody and it's like, oh, what you do? Tell me about that. I don't know anything about that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It could be, sewage engineering. I don't care. Tell me about it. There's a lot of things I don't know about. And we think I think maybe that's something that I have come to understand, obviously, with every passing year. And you may have this experience as well, Joanne, that the more I learn, the more I know that I don't know.
Yes, that's definitely true.
I'm good with that, but bring it on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that I want to learn about, and there's how many years left? I don't know.
I know you want to cram it all in as much as you can. It's like feed me all this information, because it's just so interesting. It really is. And if you lose your sense of curiosity and your willingness to explore new things, life gets really small.
It does. And I see that happening in people who are in their 20s or 30s. But then you see people whose horizons expand. So you can choose to contract your horizons. And I think part of that is because we want to control things. Yeah. And if our horizons are small, and our box is small, we can keep it under control. And I don't know about you, but I know as a woman, as I was raising my children, control was very important.
Yeah.
There's scary things out there.
There are, especially when you think about,
I'm less worried about control, and I'm more willing to relinquish that and to just kind of go with the flow. Mm-hmm. My husband would probably tell you the opposite. My kids would probably tell you I'm still really a control freak about.
It's all relative, right?
I'm selective about those things that I'm a control freak about. Yeah. Because I'm looking more about what I can bother controlling about.
Right. Exactly. So you've had your current business, Closet Play Image, for how many years now?
It'll be 2 years in May.
Oh, okay. And so what are your underlying tenets about fashion for women in middle age? I'm sure there's some themes that you feel strongly about.
Well, don't pay attention to the do not wear lists. A couple of years ago, everywhere you looked on social media was there, women over 40 or women over 50 or women over 30 shouldn't wear X, shouldn't wear this, shouldn't wear Y. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm a big girl now. I wear big girl panties and I can tell myself what I'm going to wear. And if you don't like it, it's really your problem and not mine.
Yeah.
Because what you have an issue with tells me a lot more about you than it does about me.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So, for me, it's really about being authentic. I'm huge. It's about being authentic personal style. I don't like must-have lists. Mm-hmm. They make me as crazy as the can't wear lists, the ones that say you have to have the crisp plastic white shirt, you know, and the black trouser and no, your style should be driven by your personality, by your lifestyle, by your values, by your budget. There's so many other things to take into play here, but don't pretend to be somebody you're not. That always makes me sad, and it makes me uncomfortable when I see, you know, like I'll go into a client's closet and she has, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 or hangers, or even, you know, 6 or 7, often far more, of either pieces or outfits that she never wears.
Yeah.
Bought them because they're beautiful, or she bought them because she thought they looked good, but either she doesn't have the confidence to wear them out because they're not her, don't feel right on her. Like, so here's a great example. I love an awesome flowy boho look. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous on the right person. I can't wear it. Every time I put it on, if I would put that on and I walk out the door, I feel like I'm in a Halloween fortune teller costume. It's not me.
Yeah.
It's not my personality.
Yeah.
It's not my vibe. I love the way it looks on the person it's meant to be on.
Right.
It's not authentically me.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't want to grab some of those necklaces when I'm on vacation and throw them on with what I'm wearing.
Right.
So it's a matter of learning how to integrate all those different pieces of our personality and honoring that every day when you walk out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you're dressing, you know, and you know, if you have to wear a uniform to work, you have to wear a uniform. Awesome, that's fine. Yeah. But if you're dressing yourself, and honor all those different pieces of your personality, because when you do that, you're coming across, like I said, as that authentic, integrated person. You're going to shine because people are getting from you the best of you.
Yes. Yeah, that's really true. I think one of the things that women in midlife do is that they think too hard about, okay, well, when I lose those 15 pounds, or when I do this, or when I whatever. And so they don't dress for who they are now, whatever their body shape is now. And, you know, you see some women, they're trying to put themselves into things that are too small. They're put themselves into things that are unflattering because they think it's the right style, or they want to be in. Just like you say about choosing things that aren't your personality, people also choose things that don't flatter their body.
Or they buy things that are too big because they think they're going to hide themselves in it.
Yeah.
And that makes me almost even more sad than the woman in the sausage stand leggings, because she's hiding herself, but she's not, because she's actually making herself look even bigger, because our eye visually fills in the empty space in the big baggy shirt.
Yeah.
Oh no, let's just get you something that fits you. It doesn't have to be tight. It doesn't have to be loose. Just body skimming. Let's just skim the body.
Right.
But yeah, I do. Sometimes I just want to weep. I'm like, you're a beautiful woman. Honor that body you have now, and work with that, because that's the place that you're living. You know, my son was doing a talk at church a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, you know, we are so busy and we spend a lot of time, we divorce our body and our spirit. And well, there's a thing that happens when we divorce our body and our spirit. That's called death. But what we're doing is we're walking around dead because we're denying the body that we live in. Yeah. And that's a form of, I don't want to call it style death, but it's like when you separate your mind and you deny your body, and that's your temple of the Holy Spirit you've been given to live in. So honor that body and respect that body, even if it's not exactly the one you'd like to have. Mine isn't like to have either. I'd like my legs to be at least 3 inches longer, because what I've got are a bear to buy trousers for.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all good. These legs have gotten me all around. They're getting me everywhere.
Right.
So
you want to honor them. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to honor them.
That's
so,
really true.
Because it makes me sad when women, I'm not saying to get out there and you know, let it all hang out, but honor the body you have, and respect that, and treat it the way it deserves to be treated. Don't abuse it.
I think women don't understand how to dress their new body shape. well. And so having someone like you that can show them the alternatives and be able to see what that looks like on their body and to realize that, wow, you know, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy with that look. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really great.
That, and a lot of that is very cultural, because in flashback to the 1950s, 40s, 50s, and even the very early 1960s, throughout history, you dressed one way as a girl, you dressed another way as a young woman, you dressed another way as a woman in your 20s and 30s, and there were things to look forward to for each decade of your life. When you got into your 40s and 50s, you got to wear clothing that was much more sophisticated and much more expensive and much more elegant and lovely. And so there were things for people at every phase in your life. And it didn't mean, and I don't mean polyester stretch pants here, I'm talking about gorgeous clothing that honored the mature woman that you now were, rather than the ingenue you were when you were 20.
Yeah.
But in the 1960s and the 70s, we've come to fetishize youth. And now there's a biological basis to that. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have come to so fetishize youth that we've completely lost that honoring the stage of life we're in, and doing that stage to the very best, and respecting that and honoring that to the best that we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all about that. I love, taking women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and going, look at this, you can look fabulous. Let's get rid of those polyester stretch pants. I'm a grandma. I've got 2 grandchildren. I'm a grandma, but I don't have to look like my grandma.
Yeah.
I want to look like grandma.
Yep. I think that, it's great that there are women like you that, give hope to the rest of us. But there is.
I want to look 20. I don't want my clients to look like they're trying to be 20.
Exactly.
Because we're not. We just need to be who we are at this point in our life, and embrace that and enjoy it.
Exactly. Yes, I so agree, Liz. Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed our conversation. It's been really fun talking to you and getting to know you a little bit better. And I know that our listeners are going to really benefit from your enthusiasm and the wisdom that you impart with respect to style. It's great. It's really great, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for having me. It was such a treat to meet you in Atlanta, and it was nice to talk to you again today.
Well, thank you.
All right. Have a great time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my Glorious Second Act Workbook and Planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to develop a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below. So click the link, download your planner, and get started, taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Joanne Kobike, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my Glorious Second Act Workbook and Planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to develop a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below, so click the link, download your planner, and get started, taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Joanne Kobike, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time.